Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, let's go ahead and head to the Pale Heart. So sorry guys, real quick, I'm going to deafen again on Discord so I can actually do a proper intro. When it comes down to things, we will cut most of this from the stream. So sorry Andrew, I'm going to need just 2 minutes, but I'll make this as quick as I can. I'll do it while I'm
I'll
flying
just deafen
in.
real quick.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I will be 1 sec. Okay, so, hi everyone. This is going to be where we officially start the video, so for once that bit where it says, hey, the video begins at this timestamp, yeah, for real this time. Also, welcome to the reason why I don't stream. I guess we'll start this the way we usually do. Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. So, what are we doing today? Well, we've got a sponsored stream. This was a stream sponsored by Bungie, and today we're going to be looking through the Liminality strike. And in particular, as we go through the Liminality strike, we're going to be explaining the lore, we're going to be talking about everything that we see within that strike. I have my hunter queued up here, and I did not do a campaign skip or anything, and we have the strike ready to go. We also have a preset fire team. There are a few things that I should go ahead and say as we start. First of all, thank you so much to Andrew for joining us. He is regularly inviting me on Fireteam Chat. If you haven't caught that, it's over on his channel. It's roughly once every season we'll do a big podcast and we'll go through whatever's happening in Destiny at the time being. And basically that's just a nice place where we can go ahead, chat about lore, chat about story, chat about the dynamic of the community. It's a really good time. Lots of you send me tweets on a regular basis after you've seen it saying you really enjoy it. So if you do go ahead and follow Andrew, make sure you catch some of those episodes. It's a really good time. Secondly, thank you to Elle. Elle is here filling in because if we did just jump in as 2 people, it would fill in a 3rd member of our fire team and we would not be able to stop and explain any of the stuff we want to explain to you. And we are intent on making sure that you guys actually get like a decent look into the lore, and if there was a blueberry doing blueberry things and just rushing through the strike, we would not be able to do that as much. And as I said before, this is a sponsored stream by Bungie, so thank you very much for sponsoring this stream. There will also be a VOD, a video on demand. You can catch this stream again, although I don't know why you'd want to go ahead and do that given the technical issues. But there will be a full, actual, proper lore video explaining everything as you'd usually expect from my content, and you'll be able to find that out on my channel either tomorrow or the day after, so everything should be all good. That being said, no more delays, not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into the content of the stream. And I'm just going to go ahead and undeafen it in Discord, and we should be able to get going.
Witness weird species eye. I don't think it is actually.
That's a strange thing to come back to. Witness weird species eye. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the raid pulse and the weird yellow eyes that are on it, on all the raid gear.
Yes.
They kind of look like Trials eyes, but they're obviously not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have the sniper on me. It is just weird.
Weird witness eyeballs.
Do enjoy the theme of yes, always watching you, but also because it's literally when the witness stares at you, it's like the eyes of 20 million or however many people it must be at this point. Okay, right. So, if we're going to go ahead and explain the lore of Liminality, I think we should go ahead and first jump in and actually hit the strike marker, which for me is over here. You guys might not be able to see it because I imagine on those characters you've already done the campaign. One thing to note, this is the story version of the strike. We'll be going through it, and whenever dialogue is running up, we'll probably pause so that can play out. We will be taking regular pauses to stop and talk about things. But yeah, let's jump in. Let's go ahead and do the thing.
Yeah. So yeah, this is, as Bife said, the I mean, because obviously the strike is during the campaign, and this is the campaign version of the strike. So there's different audio, so you can hear obviously the Vanguard telling some pretty interesting stuff about what this place means. But the strike version has just standard, nothing really too significant audio. But this is a strike that I feel like a lot of people probably isn't. A lot of it is easy to forget about because it's just in the rotation of strike playlists. I've done a lot of strikes. I haven't seen a strike come up once, and it's not often you're going to kind of go and replay the strike. So this is something it's kind of easy to forget about. But this strike is very, as we're going to talk about, is very significant.
Guardian.
There's a lot of stuff in here.
Cade and Crow scouted a number of potential paths to get us closer to the witness. They sighted a tormentor guarding this pass. Take it out, and the way should be clear. Show no restraint. I want our enemy to know exactly what you're capable of.
Okay, so welcome to Liminality. The actual way to the monolith is through this pass and through this mountain. But I think if we're going to actually start the strike, the first thing we need to talk about is actually what liminality, the word, means and why the strike is called liminality. And when we did our research run, which is where the two of us and a good buddy of ours in Peasant Guard, Preceptor 17, actually sat down and went through this strike slowly to pick out all the different bits and pieces and nitpick everything, it very quickly came up as the first obvious question of why is this called liminality? Obviously, if you're going to go ahead and throw something out there like that, there's got to be a purpose for it. So let's start with the definition. What is liminal? And in particular, generally, what does a liminal space mean? Because that's the context in which you hear it most often. And the context in which, the definition that you get if you just do a lazy Google, at least the one that I got when I Googled the word liminal, is something along the lines of a transition space between the past and present, or between two places. That's really not giving you the proper context of what a liminal space is. It does not give you the vibe whatsoever, because a liminal space is more about the context of something changing, right? In a certain weird sense, a lot of the stuff in the Pale Heart has a layer of liminality to it, is very much a liminal space. Because you see a lot of familiar things within the Pale Heart, but the context has changed. I mean, to go ahead and look for an immediate example that's just right in front of our faces, the Cosmodrome Wall. You know, if you look at that in old Russia, it means something entirely different from what it means here. Here, it's broken and out of place in a very not physics-obeying way. But in old Russia, it's broken and out of place because it's broken down. It's the middle of the Gold Age. Right? Or rather, it's the post-Golden Age collapse. So, yeah, that gives you at least a little bit of an idea, vaguely, about the first bit to it, but what are some other examples of liminal spaces is probably where we want to go to next. So, I think the best examples in media, if anyone's ever heard of the Backrooms, or the SCP Wiki's Infinite IKEA SCP, or just if in real life you've experienced being in an empty parking garage late at night, or being in an empty office building, or I guess if you're younger, the equivalent is your school or university, after everyone's gone home. Liminal spaces often represent places that you transition through and you don't spend a lot of time through, but when you are sat there and you remove the context of people and you're not supposed to be there, if it's a different hour, if the context of what makes them what they usually are has been removed, that makes a liminal space. It gives it that vibe. Empty indoor water park. Yeah, in the chat. That's absolutely another good example. Empty office. There's a lot of that vibe to him. Yeah. And this is one of those moments where if you have a liminal space to it, you will also end up seeing... you will also end up feeling a certain way, right? As a general rule of thumb, there's that notion of I'm not meant to be here. And it's not something where you feel outright fear, but it is one of those things where you want to get out in a relatively speedy fashion, right? So that's the kind of traditional idea of a liminal space. It's basically just somewhere that has been removed from the context of what it usually should be. Again, another good example, because I think this is where I can lead it into where the strike is going, is just remove the trains from a train station and the people from a train station, and it's no longer really a train station, it's just a place that looks like it, right? In this strike, there is a perfect parallel and an example of a liminal space, and it's where we find the statue of the dissenter, which is partway through and we'll get to it, but it's literally an abandoned town that has been remembered from the imagination of the witness, right? There are also a lot of places within this strike where the context has been changed really substantially, right? So this happens a lot, especially when there is the presence of some kind of Ahamkara in the strike. And that happens a whole bunch because of the simple fact that, I mean, they're everywhere in this. You see occasionally tentacles coming out of the walls, you see claws coming out of the walls from time to time, you see a lot of skulls in here, you see the giant ribs up there. It's all over the place in this strike. The context of everything gets even crazier when you get to the section when there are literally Ahamkara guts within the walls, which, I mean, that bridges away from being liminal into much more surreal, but then you go inside the walls and suddenly you're inside an Ahamkara. And the context of that has very much changed all on its own. Like, very, very surreal. Not something which you expect, and something that's definitely made to make you feel uneasy, right? It's also worth remembering that if you're going to look at the idea of liminal spaces and liminality generally, the idea of transitioning from one thing to another and from a past self to a present or slightly future self is also very important. And that actually happens with the characters in this strike that are at the center of it. And you'll see that in particular with Zavala and also the Witness, right? And this is where I think everything is kind of important to explain. Really quickly, question from my chat, by the way, because it is actually relevant. Are they real Ahamkara bones or just memories? These are memories of Ahamkara bones, according to Ikora, who says it later in this strike. Anyway, yeah, to give you an idea of the change that happens throughout this strike, this is the moment of change. This is the liminal space in which Zavala changes, but it also displays the liminal space moment in which the Witness changed, right? So in particular, the town scene is displaying the first dissenter statue, and it's also, I think, got a nod to the moment when all of the precursors sacrificed themselves in order to combine into the Witness. And as for Zavala, it's a change from his attitude of faith to faithlessness, right? In particular, faithlessness in the light. So you'll see as he goes through, the Zavala you see in this strike is not the same Zavala that you've known. He is not the cool, calm, confident commander that you've always had at your side on the comms. He changes from someone who supports and informs his fire team members to someone who is actively having a go at Ikora. He changes from someone who would take a very tactical approach to somebody who is going for a really reckless approach instead. In fact, you kind of hear it. There's a tormentor going through this, and in a bit we'll hear that there are actually more direct routes to the monolith, but Zavala wants to take this route because he wants to take the fight to the enemy. And it also, again, leads to the idea that he is losing his faith in the light, and this is the point at which that faith really starts to diminish, because he realizes that he's starting to get answers in the dark, right? And that's kind of another reason why this is probably called liminality. You're sitting there and seeing the moment of actual transition. Also, liminal spaces tend to be spaces you move through. And lastly, we go through this entire strike, and it's going through a pass. As in a mountain pass, as in a place you pass through mountains. So it is another transitional space, all on its own. Anyway,
yeah, and I do like how just even going into the strike, you can kind of, I don't know, are there Ahamkara bones anywhere else in the Pale Heart?
I don't believe there are Ahamkara bones anywhere else in the Pale Heart. I could well be wrong. But this,
obviously, I mean, there might be, but this is just, obviously Bungie design is a very deliberate, but it's a cool way that you can tell what's going to be happening in here. Is obviously the giant skeleton. We can all tell what that would be a part of. But yeah, in a Bungie Vidoc, they did say, the designers that worked on this said that Strike is based on memories of the Witness, which obviously could include just all the precursors. It could include the dissenters that are against it. It could include the Witness itself and all the various entities inside. But this is going to be, I don't know if it's just one singular being's memories, but I guess it's just a amalgamation of lots of memories of just all the dissenters and Witness and precursors and all of them involved. So there's a lot of just weird stuff going on in the strike. That's cool.
Absolutely. And it is, honestly, that is the central question when it comes to the actual memories. For those of you who don't know and who haven't necessarily dived into Final Shape yet, the Pale Heart of the Traveler has a condition now that the Witness is in it. It was a thing of light, and now darkness has been brought into it. Light manifests things and can create physical, real spaces, but darkness is a thing of the mind. It's a thing of memory. So when combined, your memories literally become real in front of you. As a result, here in the Pale Heart, everyone's memories are getting manifested. So if you go to the refraction, which on the map is over this way, it's the area where you first find Crow and Glint. It's past there. It's leading into the blooming where you find Ikora. That space, the refraction, is full of awoken crystals. And it looks as though that's all Crow's memory. It even has, at the very beginning in this bit, the chamber where there is actually like the funeral stand where Aldrin's body was laid before Glint came along, resurrected him, and turned him into Crow. And so, yeah, you do have some nods to Crow's memory there, but there's also a crystalline statue of Savathun. So, like, it's a nod to the idea that she's also had some influence there as well. So, yeah, that gives you an idea of the fact that even in these spaces that are really well defined, there might be multiple hands at work here molding those spaces to the memories of whatever it's being exposed to. But
and I
yeah,
guess the big question, which we will gradually get to and gradually talk about, is what does Ahamkara have to do with the witness? Why does the witness have memories or any kind of manifestation of the Ahamkara? It's not something we've seen as far as I'm aware, and Life, you can probably jump in, but I'm not sure if there's been any connection between the two. So this is why the strike is pretty interesting to have all of this, and also of course the tormentor, I think it's Kataxiia, something like that, the
yes,
tormentor
Kataxiia.
of Ahamkara. Like, what does the witness have to do with Ahamkara? That's a weird combination that we've never seen before. So that's the golden question right now.
Indeed. And it's also, I think, yeah, I'll answer this question again because it's been brought up again by Vigo. Are the bones our memories, or are they the memories of the witness, or both? That is, I think, entirely the question that is being asked in the strike, and there is actually evidence to say that it might be a bit of both, which I'll show you later on in the strike as we get to it. But basically, there are echoes of the Great Hunt in this as well that are very clear to see, and there are also clear echoes of the idea that, you know, the witness is just using the Ahamkara and has clearly encountered them before. And those are very clear visual motifs when you encounter them. Also, there are some things I think aren't necessarily memory, but we'll get to those when we get to them. For the moment, yeah, this is first room, so we'll go ahead and talk about that in a little bit.
Up ahead.
And there's a lot of, as you'll see, specifically titans that are frozen in various states, action states.
A guard left by the
And for some reason, it's
witness.
always titans.
We're on the right track.
Yeah.
You can see this guy.
We
Looks like
can't
he's
even
about to
scratch
do a
that wizard's
dive.
shields. We need something stronger. Something
Yeah.
like that Ahamkara.
So we've got our
skull,
first Ahamkara
resonating with
skull,
taken
which, as you can
energy.
see, is still
Even the memory
radiating that
of
energy.
Ahamkara
What is this energy? Is it Ahamkara energy?
carefully.
Or taken
Yes.
energy?
Use a
Likely,
guardian.
likely
If it
wish
moves us
magic.
forward, it's worth it.
Because
But
they
you
still
can-
live through their bones
Yeah.
and can still communicate and do stuff even when they're dead.
Indeed, and even the memory of an Ahamkara having power does make sense, because Ahamkara are paracausal, but they're also creatures that literally exist based purely on someone's desires. And so, desire being something that is a mental faculty mixed in, excuse me, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's a mental faculty that's mixed in with everything to do with other things that are quite darkness adjacent. It doesn't seem too illogical to sit there and say that the memory of an Ahamkara has real power. There is some other stuff to talk about in this room, though. First of all, you pointed it out, the Titan statue here. This is, I think Titans will be able to go ahead and tell me yay or nay, but this is either the start of a Ward of Dawn pose, as you put it in our first run-through of this, Andrew, or alternatively, this is someone doing a thunderclap. And either way, it's a combat action, and it's being used in this moment. It's not the last time we'll see a kind of combat-oriented looking Guardian that's also somewhere around Wish Dragons. And it gives you this idea that maybe these are other people's memories of things. At one point, I wondered whether this strike was also partially, in a certain way, grabbing some of Zavala's memories. There is
Yes,
no
specifically Titans.
right? There is no record, I think, of him being in the Great Hunt, unless I'm missing a lore tab, which is entirely possible, because I can't remember and I'm entirely fallible. Like, it's totally possible that he was involved in one of the lore tabs. That being said, he was definitely around for the time of the Great Hunt, so it would have been one of those things that he at least remembered. All of that being said, it could also be something further. You know, there could just be another person that's creating these memories, and is the reason for the Guardians here. The Witness creates a lot of statues of Guardians like this, so it wouldn't be surprising if this is just the Witness as well.
Speaking of statues, if you look directly up, a very creepy, which again isn't the last time we'll see this in the strike, big human face, which you do see all over the Pale Heart, but this has a lot of them littered all over, and they do kind of seem like the what are they called in the theater, the happy face and the smiley face, the face of
Oh, yeah, the Mask of Tragedy and the Mask of Comedy, I think.
Yeah. Like just the way that the mouth is, this definitely looks like the Mask of Tragedy, which I think is based off. I don't think you see any mask of what was the other one? Joy?
Comedy.
I
think.
But they all seem to be a lot of just very creepy, scary, unhappy looking faces and the big hands. And yeah, the designers definitely having fun with this one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be said as possibly maybe it's meant to look like Zavala. I don't think so. I think it's just a generic face. It does kind of look like Zavala, but that might be a bit of a reach.
If it is, it's one of those things where it turns up so often throughout the Pale Heart that
yeah.
If that is the case, and if that is all meant to be Zavala, there are whole walls of his face in tortured expressions. Which, if that's the case,
then
says
it
something
would make
scary
sense.
about all that, doesn't it? Really.
It would make sense for it to be Zavala because he has obviously in the campaign has a very unique relationship with the Witness, and he's flirting with joining and like.
Yeah, is actively trying, especially at this point in the story, is actively trying to dig into the darkness and find out more about everything.
So Zavala would be someone that the Witness is particularly interested in, but I guess all this strike is based on memories and kind of stuff before Zavala, so
indeed,
it's probably not Zavala, but.
Also, as Shingley put it quite aptly in the comments, Bungie, we're not going to do body horror. Also Bungie. Yes. Yeah. Okay. A point to make here, which seems really small when you look at it at first, but I think is actually also a really big thing because you see a lot of this throughout the rest of the strike and generally throughout the Pale Heart. You have an objective here, which is drain the purulence, right? Purulence is another word for pus, and it's actually kind of something scary because this is not lava, despite what it looks like. This is the purulence, right? And if I step into it, it will take a moment for you to see it, and you might need to go ahead and let me do it. But if everybody focuses on the debuffs on the left side of my screen, you would expect it to say burning. It doesn't. It says poisoned. And there is a reason for that. This is not lava. The purulence being pus or a wound of some kind indicates that this is literally the result of the wounds of the Traveler. This is like we've popped one of the Traveler's boils and the Witness is just gouging. So,
and it's interesting you say those words. What's this place called? You put out your ghost.
The abscess. There you go.
So it is very much like if you were to pop an abscess and drain pus, like it is fitting.
The entire
if
thing
you use those words.
Yeah, it is making reference to the fact that this place is under the influence of the Witness. Things are not going well. So yeah, much as it does look like lava, it is actually not lava. Unfortunate that the answer is actually that grim because, oh wow, that's
actually something more disgusting.
Yeah, it's even worse. It's so much worse. That being said, we can go ahead and we can take the taken energy and we can infuse it into the skull. The fact that...
take it from one skull and put it to another skull.
Yeah. As for why taken energy is required to empower this skull, it's not clear. That being said, this is just the memory of an Ahamkara, so allowing some kind of measure of paracausal ability to it. Yeah, that might assist.
If those
and then as we do that,
Ahamkara
the
helpful,
lava slash pus drains and clears the way.
It's not like you to encourage recklessness, Zavala.
It's not like you, Ikora, to lecture on recklessness.
And you can hear some more back and forth.
But you chose the most dangerous. Why?
Isn't this the sort of risk you've always demanded I take?
Yeah, and that's another point. You know, this is another example of the transitional moment for Zavala as a character. He is, metaphorically speaking, transitioning from a character who's all about stability and security, all about making sure that they can do things tactically. He's all about the light and his faith in it. He's transitioning away from all of that. He's becoming reckless. He's getting agitated and combative with Ikora. And he's also getting to that point where, again, he is chasing a lead specifically because of darkness. That will be more evident later in the strike. But yeah, the rest of it will become more apparent as we go through as well, but it's come to the surface much earlier. That's also partly because of the way things go. You were talking about that earlier, right?
That spawns. I would.
It's okay.
Maybe if you're really quick,
you
can jump on it, but yeah. I'd love to see if you can It probably doesn't lead to anything, but there is a ship, a tomb ship that spawns and just flies over there, and it does just seem very random, but it's probably just scenery. But if you're very quick, you might be able to jump on it, but I haven't been able to thus far.
Chris G, you ask a very good question. Has Ikora's ghost ever been named? I want to say that I'm saying the name correctly when I call it Ophiuchus, but I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. I keep saying it in videos that way, so I'm just going to hold to my guns for the moment, but yeah, Ophiuchus is the name of Ikora's ghost. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and move on to the next bit. This is also a moment where we have to acknowledge something as well, which is that Luzaku's brood came through too, right? There are Lucent Hive in here, and this is the one part that might actually not necessarily be memory entirely, because we've got the typical Hive chitin all over the floor and whatnot. This might be them just setting up shop amongst the memories. That being said, this stuff is very much a memory, because this is not Hive at all. This kind of glass has been seen before. This is a sort of visual motif that you see a lot in Valve the Disciple, and sometimes in the earlier untwisted and unbroken sections of Essence, which is the pyramid ship on which Root of Nightmares takes place. This is the kind of glass/crystal slab in which worms and other creatures are imprisoned within for study. And yeah, it's a little tricky to make out, but that's absolutely the claw of an Ahamkara, and we'll find a place later on in the strike where you can actually see one in full. So yeah, this is very much an example of what is likely to be the witness's memory of the Ahamkara. And the reason I say that is because the Ahamkara have always followed in the Traveler's wake, right? There is a system called Harmony, or rather there was a people called the Harmony. I want to say that their home world and their home system was Anna Harmony. This is all from the Books of Sorrow. And at the point when they needed to defend against Oryx, they turned to Wish Dragons in order to help them. This was a moment where Savathun came along and actually vivisected the Wish Dragons in order to stop them from using that wish magic. However, this is the first bit of evidence that we get that the Ahamkara follow in the Traveler's wake. Because, lo and behold, the Ahamkara only started to pop up in our system after the Traveler arrived. And as a result, you can kind of put two and two together. That means that seeing as the Witness was also following the Traveler for all of its existence, it likely also encountered the Ahamkara at some point. Hence why they are imprisoned like this. And there's a reason for it, too, because the Ahamkara and the Witness are basically philosophical opposites, right? The Witness wants to create the final shape, which is this perfect stillness where everyone has either what they want or what the Witness thinks they desire, and nothing can change from that point onwards. Ahamkara are all about change. They specifically utilize an ability called the Anthem Anatheme, or Anthem Anathema, perhaps, depending on the pronunciation. The point is, this ability allows them to change reality on a whim, and they do change reality on a whim whenever they're making wishes with people. They gain power from the bargains by twisting them, and specifically changing reality to not quite be as the person wanted it to be, but to still follow the vague outline of that wish. Change like that, and bargains like that, can't happen in the final shape because it is a never-changing place. And so it makes a lot of sense that the Ahamkara and the Witness are ideologically opposed. There is no change in the final shape, so there's no way for the Ahamkara to make bargains and wishes, so the Witness has to imprison them. And in a certain sense, the very nature of them as being beings of kind of chaos and change and feeding means that we're always going to see this kind of opposition between those two groups. And it makes sense then why the boss of this strike is called the Tormentor of the Ahamkara. Literally a tormentor, not just actually, hey, this is the enemy type. This is definitely the fate the Witness would, I think, prescribe to all of those who are trying to actively change the world instead of finding a perfect stillness for it. You know, the Witness probably looks at them and sees them in a similar, yet worse manner as it does its own dissenters. You know, they're not worthy and they just need to suffer at that point. Either way, this is first combat section, so enough of the talking for just a moment. Let's go ahead and kill some seal keepers.
Yeah, and these are the Hive, of course, and these are from Luzaku, right?
Yes, these are Lucent Hive, as you can see by the sort of spikies and the blue on their color scheme. It's very much one of the interesting points to this strike, is the fact that there are actually 3 strike bosses. Come here. There we go. Yeah, so there are actually 3 strike bosses in this, although you might not necessarily recognize all of them as bosses, particularly the Lucent Hive one. It's not the large seal inscriber knight that appears at the end. It's the acting brood commander that appears at the very, very end of the strike, not in this section at all. She has a part to play in this, I believe, as does the Tormentor that shows up, as does the Subjugator that shows up about 2/3 of the way through. No matter what, all of them are taking place in this strike, and all of them are still trying to do one universal thing, which is either keep or claim territory. And that's actually a line you do get from the vanilla version of the strike too. The Hive are probably here just existing at this point, trying to hold out, stuck inside the Pale Heart is the conclusion I think Ikora comes to from all of this. That being said, I don't expect all the chitin to necessarily be memory. But it's also possible that there could be an aspect of that to it, you know? It wouldn't be hard for them to sit there and remember a part of their home as it used to be. There we go, finally got combination by rolling. Oh, come on, don't disappear like that. So rude, I didn't even get to use my still hunt. I didn't even hit the thrall, oh my god. Whatever.
Them Hive Guardians, I'm not even giving them a second.
I stood behind cover for just a second, popped my still hunt, and he fell down, avoiding it, and I was... I feel robbed. Anyway.
He was trying to end me, I was not giving him a chance.
One that's more direct, with fewer enemies. I know that you're angry, that you've lost faith in the Traveler, but don't let it cloud your judgment.
This isn't about the Traveler. It's about hitting back hard.
And there again are those echoes of both Zavala losing his strategic edge in favor of recklessness and his faith in the Traveler in favor of getting progress and getting some kind of result, hence why he wants to hit back hard, as he says. Also, some of these are human hands, as you can see. However, human hands also don't have claws and also don't have 4 main digits and 1 weird tiny extra do-digit. So yeah, these are both hands and Ahamkara claws. Do note as well, these are not the witnesses' hands where they have an extra thumb on the other side here, where it's symmetrical. These are human hands. So again, this is another potential echo showing what might be evidence of Ahamkara's memories of the Great Hunt, or humans' memories of the Great Hunt. I say humans, Guardians' memories of the Great Hunt, because, you know, Awoken and Exo as well. And, the amount of suffering that falls upon each one as a result, perhaps. But, yeah, this is another moment, actually. This is the point I wanted to point out in particular. This Titan, broken up and with all their nonsense as they are... Let me just kill this knight before I go back to it. Yeah. They are very clearly mid-shoulder charge here. It's incredibly obvious just from the pose. So, again, very clear note that this is a combat pose. Also, the tentacles out here from the Ahamkara, we know that that generally can happen at any point, but also in the Last Wish raid encounter, it is literally an attack that Riven herself makes. There is also a Guardian here that is holding up a hand as though they are saying, no, wait, I need to not be struck down in this moment whilst they are surrounded by tentacles. This, to me, reads like a fight scene. This reads like a battle, which again makes me wonder if this is a memory from a Guardian of the Great Hunt, or whether maybe the Ahamkara skulls, which in themselves, remember, are likely memories, are actually remembering their own memories of the Great Hunt. Because we don't know if the memories can manifest their full thoughts and everything else that's going on with them. Because again, if it was just human bones, it would be nothing, but Ahamkara can exist through their bones. There's a whole load of questions that arise because there isn't enough clarity on this. That's part of the reason why the discussion around it is so interesting. There's little bits and pieces that you can knit together that give you part of a picture and an idea of why some things are here, but the picture is not complete. For all we know, and this is another outside possibility, all of these different motifs of the Great Hunt might be the result of an actual living Ahamkara that is somewhere around and that has left its memories like this. We just don't know, but the fact that these depictions of the Great Hunt are there leave that option on the table as unlikely as it is. To be really clear about that again, that's just interpretation. There is nothing that states that to be the case, but it is possible, which is why it's so wild, right? It could be a mixture of all the memories at once. Yes, Chris Andrews, it absolutely could be. So yeah, this is kind of the interesting question of the strike, is who's remembering what in each of these spaces. So yeah.
And there is also you look through here somewhere, which we're going to be later on in the strike, which is kind of an interesting detail, the fact that they're actually connected. But this is a room that we are going to be approaching later on. You can actually look through this little grate and see and look back up at this very strange room. The one with the portal.
Bottom right corner, we will actually be doing some fun shenanigans in this room, in particular involving a little bit of backtracking to see something that I've seen in trailers, but yeah, not necessarily in most people's experience of the strike.
Yeah, it is weird how the... I mean, we'll get to it. Well,
should we be worried about the pulsing Ahamkara guts in the walls?
You should always be worried when there are guts in the walls.
So yeah, you know what I was saying about...
There.
Yeah, you know what I was saying about surreal spaces and liminal spaces? This is the first really great example of where those two start to clash and collide. We're about to hit a boss encounter as we go through. You will see that the whole guts in the wall motif is about to become a lot more present, because we're literally going to go into some areas that are just guts. And again, if the witness is remembering this, and they have specifically assigned a tormentor to torment the Ahamkara, it makes you wonder, why does the witness remember these things? I hope the witness is remembering these things, but also I really don't hope the witness is remembering these things. The alternative is that the Guardians are remembering these things, and that's kind of awful. So you gotta wonder at that point, whose memory of the inside of an Ahamkara is this? Yeah, not fun.
That's a great quote to live by from Akora. You should always be concerned when there are guts in the walls.
You already know what to do.
Agreed. Definitely agreed.
So here is our boss, the first and main boss of the entire strike, Kataxiia, Tormentor of the Ahamkara. And yeah, I'll go ahead and I won't actually pick up the things, but walking through here you can start to see what I mean by the guts in the walls start to really take over. And again, a long corridor like this is a perfect example of what a liminal space looks like, you know? And they have gone over the top with regards to removing the context of the space. This looks like it could just be a pyramid corridor, but the context has been changed and removed because there's guts in the wall. And even if it was the interior of an Ahamkara, and there's been something that's changed.
Yeah, this room
it shouldn't look like this either. Yeah.
This room also has some... when Bungie designed this, they actually took... There's some later rooms which will also have a similar theme, but this room is actually based off of Indiana Jones' escape. Taken the relic, having to escape through a bunch of obstacles while the walls are slowly closing in, and this was the actual direct inspiration for this, is Indiana Jones and various action adventure movies where you're trying to grab the thing, run through while there's lava and Ahamkara guts and pillars coming out of nowhere trying to block you off. So
speaking of
which,
which,
cool little side room.
Do you want to take this first one and then I'll grab the second?
Yep.
We'll do the runs together and make sure that we get out in good time. Behold the obstacle course.
And the lava on the ceiling, or poisonous pus.
Indeed. And then, of course, door closes behind us.
Yeah, a little Indiana Jones reference there for you. And there'll be more as well. Not the only movie reference. But a very cool looking boss. Very cool looking boss.
Do note as well, this is another little side tangent before we go into the next room. Whenever we're empowering those skulls, it's likely that we're wishing for an edge against the boss here, or to destroy the boss or defend the traveler, or something generic along those lines. But even if it's the memory of an Ahamkara skull, the fact that it works against the boss proves that the Ahamkara has a small degree of power in some manner. Which means they might be twisting the wish. Who knows? We're currently doing things and we don't know what the full consequence of it is going to be. That being said, we have more guts in the wall to change. And do note, while the last one was a lot more filled with Ahamkara guts over on that side of the room, this one is much more of a pyramidal thing. It's got a lot more references to the precursor civilization here. Do you still have that? Or is
I
that
actually got this from killing some other Taken, which I only just realised you can actually get another Taken essence from. It's going to run out soon.
Oh, how
You
about
can grab that one.
Alright, get ready to
Yeah,
jump into the
that
ceiling.
you can. Yeah, if you kill, there's a bunch of Taken that spawn, and if you kill them, you also get a Taken essence, which was interesting.
Don't
I
die on the
definitely
strike.
died my first time doing this.
Yeah, I
got
didn't
lost
realize
and
you had
didn't know
to
which
jump.
way.
I was very
Yeah,
much
it's
of the
not-
opinion that you just had to keep going and do whatever. Oh, there we go. I tell you, doing something on stream is so much worse. Could Oryx have taken Riven without wishing for it? I suspect so. But by that same token, it's one of those moments where Oryx probably recognized the power of
It's on
Riven
the run,
in that
but we've
moment of
wounded it.
conversation.
It won't get far.
I believe it's, I say recognize the power of Riven, that belies a potential problem there. Basically, Oryx probably didn't realize that he was about to enter into a bargain, but he realized that he was going to take a powerful entity and was like, ooh, another powerful soldier for my army. Probably didn't realize what kind of trouble he was going to get himself into with all of that.
So now Kataxiia has fled, and the
Guardian,
lava
between you and
slash
me,
poison slash
I like
pus
Zavala's
slash
moxie, but
sludge
this?
is drained, again revealing the way.
Ikora's right to be worried. I got a bad feeling too.
Yeah, Cade pointing out again the transitional moment for Zavala. How this is not like him. Oh, and that's a ton of Grim. Alright, cool. Unscripted Vife, love to see it. Yeah, no, there's it's gonna sound a little odd, but I am okay going unscripted sometimes. You will hear a lot more ums and ahs. I know there are some people who hate me unscripted because of that. Yeah, it's very, very weird to sit there and have to think about that particular side of it all. But hey, whatever, not a big deal. This is where we're transitioning to the
Enemy
more
signature
pyramidal
incoming.
side of things.
It's gone. For now, at
And
least.
I need to grab some prism. Are you rocking prismatic?
Yeah. There we go. Alright, so, do note, that door is closed. We're going to jump in through the skull here and follow through this resonant portal. We will not stay there forever.
Yeah, I'm
But-
going to hang around here and show them the alternate. How do I
The
get
alternate
onto this
route.
thing?
Do you reckon that it'll work if I just open this and do the thing?
It should. I'm just going to show them how up above here is the little corridor
Oh,
that we
yeah,
just came
from
from.
where we were earlier. Yes, yes, yes. Indeed.
So it kind of loops round, but I believe... So you do jump through the portal,
But we'll be able to get back to that room, so that's the important
but
thing.
this door is closed. But where Bife is going, are you able to come back? Did they let you?
It will. Remember we did the backtracking part? Like, all the way to there. During the last run we did. Yeah, if you come through the portal, we will be able to get back there, so it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Has anyone ever called me Biff instead of Bife by accident? Someone's done it on a live stage and I've had to correct them, I think. I think that's happened one time over the last 10 or 11 years. Can't remember where it was, but... Yeah, that, awkward day for them not doing their research. We're not going to go out too far onto this, because otherwise we're going to have the floor disappear.
Yes, when you kill a few waves of enemies, but it is pretty soon. Like, once you kill a couple waves, the floor will be submerged in lava. But this is probably the most interesting room in the entire strike. There's a lot to talk about here.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. And also the flowers, look, which we'll talk about. You couldn't see them under lava last time, but...
Indeed. More flowers indeed. We'll get to these in a moment. There is a heavy potential significance to these of all things, but yeah, we will hold off on that.
Yeah, we
This
can't backtrack just yet.
This is the memory of the precursor civilization. This is a precursor town. So for those of you who do not know what the shtick is with the Witness and the precursors and the dissenters and everything else that's going on, brief little spark notes. The Witness is a combination of a ton of different entities. It is a compound creature. Those entities were part of what was only referred to in our notes as the precursor civilization. This ancient civilization, the first civilization ever blessed by the Traveler. When they tried to combine the Traveler and the Veil, the Traveler fled, and their civilization was mostly left in ruins. They had been struggling and looking for purpose for ages, and in the end they decided that they would create a being called the Witness after a long period of war and a lot of factional infighting. The point of the Witness was a being who had perfect purpose and who would combine all of them into that purpose being the final shape. They wanted to create a universe where nothing changed and nothing suffered, and where they could find a certain degree of perfection. This entire plaza is a memory of that civilization, and I think, especially with the flowers on the floor, around this and other statues, in particular that one that we'll get to, I think this is a moment of grieving as everyone is being turned into the Witness. It's a whole process. You can probably see it in the cutscene from Season of the Deep, if you haven't seen that already. That being said, there is a really quite awesome note to this, which I think is specifically that this room, I think, is not just the memory of the Witness specifically, but I think it's the memory of the Dissenter statue at the center here. And the reason I say that is purely because the Witness itself is not looking to memorialize all of this. This town, as you'll hear from the dialogue in a moment, is hidden away in a mountain, right? It's all pyramidal, but the word hidden specifically, including the notion that the statue is hidden, implies that the Witness didn't want people to find this and was even ashamed. It's the kind of idea that sort of travels with all of these Dissenter statues that we find in the final shape. It's this idea that nobody really, or at least the Witness did not want any of these statues to be able to take some kind of prominence, and the memories that might have been manifested, if they were manifested by a Dissenter here, that's something the Witness doesn't even want to worry about, doesn't want to think about at all. Should we jump down and listen to some dialogue and kill some Taken?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go ahead and point some things out.
Yeah, we can try and explore the city a little bit before we kill too much stuff.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, so let's try and hang back. Oh, you got a
But
rogue cloak.
Something interesting about this city, you can see these plates here which have Latin written on them. Obviously, the word liminality is Latin. Obviously, the Romans spoke Latin, but mostly a little bit of Greek, but mostly Latin. But this city also, Bungie haven't said this. This is just kind of just me guessing off the top of my head. But the city does look like it has some kind of themes of Pompeii. If any of you guys have heard of the ancient Roman city that got covered in lava by Vesuvius, giant eruption, and the whole place got destroyed. But this whole place does kind of look like a bit of a ancient Roman city, and obviously this is an actual ancient city in the precursors history. But also, of course, later on, as we'll see, this room does get covered in lava as well, or lava slash pus slash whatever the sludge is. But the room kind of has some, and even the statues, the way they do look calcified and
Yeah.
similar to the, if you've ever, any of you guys have studied it in history or done a tour for yourself, the room kind of, the city at least, does kind of seem a bit Roman Pompeii kind of vibes.
It certainly has that vibe.
It'd be interesting to know from Bungie if that's actually true, whether it's just a coincidence, but it definitely seems Pompeii-ish.
I think it's also worth pointing out again, you mentioned the statues, and I think the idea of the statues in particular is relevant here more than anywhere else, purely on the basis that the statues of the precursors, or just anything that you find inside the Witnesses' pyramids, they are always really twisted and tortured. If you've seen the calcified remains from Pompeii, or the neighboring towns whose names just escape me right now, I can't remember. Yeah, this is what vaguely happens when you're inside a pyroclastic flow. Not only is it something where you are cooked alive, of course, because the temperature is fresh, hot out of a volcano, your muscles contract under the heat. and so you get very contorted remains and bodies if you find any at all. Most of the time, the only reason that we find the remains of any bodies preserved in Pompeii is because of the fact that they were actually covered in ash, not hit directly by the flow. It's, if you are actually hit directly by the flow, you're just gone. There's nothing. Yeah, not good.
But also just the pyramid, of course, the pyramids, sorry. The pyramids are obviously very deep to the witness, but again, just kind of looks ancient, kind of reminiscent to the pyramids of Giza, just looks like an ancient civilization. So the designers definitely built this well to look like an ancient, just these monoliths and statues and ancient architecture and just the what looks kind of like marble. It all just looks in theme with the ancient civilization. And of course the tablets as well, with Latin written on them. Do look very...
I will also go ahead and point this out, by the way. For those of you who are interested in potentially hunting a secret that might not even exist in the game, if you go, and I don't think I have it on me, because it's on my Warlock, because I have it there because it's actually good. If anybody has Euphony, the lore tab notes that there is somewhere within the Pale Heart a slab of rock that they have been able to translate that had words on it. They're not sure of the exact nature and accuracy of the translations. They're only sure of certain percentages of it. If you are playing or replaying the story missions, particularly later on, maybe look out for things like that, because we still, to the best of my knowledge, have not found that particular tablet. And it's just a theory, but if that tablet was translated, we could be looking potentially at a future Rosetta Stone type situation, or specifically the Dread language to English. And
I
oh
think
no!
here comes the lava.
Oh goodness, look at the cracks in the walls. Oh, suddenly there's pus. Oh dear. Not good.
So again, kind of reminiscent of Pompeii. Ancient city, submerged in lava now.
It's
Again,
not
we
looking
say
too
lava.
hot. There we go. Yeah, just gonna go ahead and jump up the different levels and make sure we get through that, okay?
Then interesting how there's lava coming down. Again, we're calling it lava, pus, whatever it is, coming down this section of the room, which is blocked. And in the beginning, there was none over there, and then it kind of swaps. And then this lava stays, and this lava drains, which is the way that you go forward.
Indeed. Also,
And underneath that lava is some... You can see the tip of the statue right here, but underneath, as we'll look at, is some very interesting stuff.
yes,
This
is why
yeah.
this is the interpretation I'm fostering at very least, is that this is a dissenter's memory, purely on the basis of that statue that Andrew just pointed out. Not this big one here, not the actual main dissenter statue, but instead that one that we'll unearth when we get out of the lava properly. Oh, come on. There we go.
Yeah, some interesting stuff on the floor next to it that we'll see.
2 seconds, I'm just gonna punch that guy. Ah, there you go. No more shield. In fact, no more boy. There you go. That is the second boss, by the way. Macht, the subjugator of the Forgotten, which I think is another important tie-in for the name here. Let's hold off before we investigate the statue, by the way.
There's a whole town down here. The architecture looks pyramidal, but it's different. Older.
Something from the witness's past. Buried and abandoned in this mountain. Find out what it's hiding.
But be careful. We still don't know enough about its origins.
So again, there's that note of this was buried and abandoned in the mountains, something from the witness's past. It's the idea that potentially if it is buried and abandoned, the witness wants to forget about it or hide it. Hence why I think this might all be the memory of a dissenter. But again, when we drain the pus here, when we drain the lava, we're going to take a look at that statue, and I think it's worth comparing it just to something that's going on over on in a cutscene that you find in Season of the Deep, and just to the vague motif and idea. It is nothing concrete, but I think that it only further solidifies things. There is one other thing I'll go ahead and point out too. Again, the flowers that are being thrown at the foot of the statue here, it's a very kind of funeral gesture, if that makes sense. You know, it's almost like throwing flowers on top of someone's casket as they pass on the way to their funeral. In particular, it's also weird that we're talking about flowers in the first place because they need to come up with a distinctive actual format for it. There is a thing about these flowers being the color they are, right? Yes, somewhat bleached white, but also with the color of pink. I know it sounds silly and ridiculous, but legitimately, anytime you see a flower and it happens to be those colors, it's worth stopping and wondering whether or not it's asphodelia. And the reason that matters is this. Asphodelia is a plant that originally comes from the Black Garden, and if this is a memory of a dissenter that is recreating an accurate town, it is telling us that yes, they had access to this flower, which means in some manner, somehow this got from the Black Garden to the dissenter civilization. I say dissenter, the precursor civilization rather. When you're also taking that into account, you've got to remember entelechy, which is the series of findings and lore that Ido drops for us in the Final Shape Collector's Edition. And that's important as well because there is a precursor who leaves a log in that series of lore books, and they are basically using a proto-pyramid ship as a life-seeding vessel. They're taking an entire store and cargo hold worth of seeds and plants in order to create garden worlds across a solar system that they've kind of claimed as their own little pet project. And one of the plants aboard is asphodelia. That's what's really interesting. I've seen someone has also said glass mines in the chat as well. That's another point that potentially links in with the time before time. The idea that the glass mines were the Vex. For those who don't know, in entelechy it also mentions the idea of glass mines, which they mention are super powerful prediction engines capable of just figuring all sorts of things out and prophesying? Words are hard. Seeing into the future with terrifying degrees of accuracy, and they see all sorts of terrible things that we know happen in our timeline. And there's a lot of hints that, yes, these may be the Vex. So maybe they somehow escaped out of the flower game, as it seems to have been the case in Unveiling, if you take that in its most literal reading, and then perhaps escaped to the point where they are somehow being utilized by the precursor civilization. All very unclear, but the point is this. It's another interesting link between the precursors and the Black Garden. And given the timeline of things, there is genuinely a chance that somehow, by hook or by crook, they had access at the end of the day to the Black Garden. This is only further solidified by one last thing. Garden of Salvation, when you do that raid, at the very end of it, you find a precursor statue within the very center of the remnants of the Tree of Silver Wings stump at the very final chest of the raid. Which means, at very least, the witness must have been there. If not the dissenters, if not the precursor civilization generally. But either way, yeah, someone's been to the Black Garden. We don't know if there's been something further to do with that, but there is an intriguing potential link there, and the asphodelia being here implies there might have been a means by which they accessed it sooner, or somehow the asphodelia escaped by other means. Totally unclear, but the links are there, and it requires more sort of digging and discovery in order to truly create it. But you can see the tiny bits and pieces moving. It's really interesting. Anyway, let's go ahead and play this dialogue.
Give yourself to darkness. Only there will you find the answers you seek.
Did you hear that? It spoke to us. It wants to help. Just as I told you before.
Or it could be a trap. Listen to yourself, Zavala. I've known you for hundreds of years, but right now, I don't even recognize you.
You just don't like it when people change.
I don't like change that can cost lives.
That isn't your decision to make. When we faced Savathun, you took unimaginable risks.
That's enough. Focus on the mission. Get your eyes off each other's throats and put them back on that tormentor.
So again, the whole thing of change there, you're starting to see that final bit of change coming along, where the statue of the dissenters are saying, give yourself to darkness, and Zavala, instead of staunchly saying no, as he might have back in the day, instead is very happy to sit there and follow that lead. Also, let's talk about this mess that we can now see. Does anyone remember that cutscene of just a pile of bodies from the Season of the Deep cutscene that then formed to make the Witness? Just like a horrifying amalgamation of everything. That's one potential interpretation for what all this is. If this entire place is the memory of a dissenter, which again, that's just my interpretation, it could very well be wrong, this could be the dissenter's interpretation of the Witness. Just a horrifying amalgamation of tortured bodies. Something grotesque and really not fitting. There are a few other ways you read this as well. It could be that this is all the Witness's memory of everything, and that instead, these are the remnants of the precursors who didn't want to turn into the Witness. For a little context, there was factional infighting after the Traveler left, and in the end, one faction called the Penitent were successful in actually overwhelming and destroying the other factions. And then they combined to make the Witness. They believed there was no other option. This could be the memory of all those who were also killed. That being said, again, lots of things are left open to interpretation in this. I think that if this is the dissenter's memory, and if in particular this is a commentary from them and them remembering the moment of change from a civilization into the Witness, then this is representative of what that change might have been like in their mind, might have felt like, might have represented. So yeah. And again, further reasons why they're throwing the funeral type flowers. So sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say this looks, basically identical to the cutscene, if you remember, of when they all merge and become one, and you have all the different body parts, and they're all severed. It looks pretty gruesome, and then they all just form into this one giant being, which obviously becomes the Witness. So I feel like we see it somewhere else in the Pale Heart, maybe towards the final missions. I feel like I see it somewhere else as well, but this is definitely reminiscent of the creation of the Witness and all of them sacrificing, whether they're all willing or whether this is, like you said, the dissenter's memory or the Witness's memory or a combination, but yeah, a very interesting statue for sure.
Indeed. Real quick, I'm also going to run back and show everybody the bits that most people miss, just super quickly so we can actually show that off. For those of you who do not know, if you are, I believe this is if you are behind and you come to this part of the strike late, there is a backtracking mechanic. That door was not open originally. You can go up and down these stairs. I'm going to go ahead and bet that not many of you have seen this part of the strike. This is not too crazy, not too ridiculous. There's not much going on with regards to what happens with it. It is mostly the same. However, if memory serves... Is it here? No, it's further down. It's down and across, maybe? One of these has the exit. I just can't remember which bit.
Oh, I think it's up here. If you jump to the... You got to do like a max double jump.
Yes, there it is. Fading into the wall.
Yes, this is a somewhat of an alternate route. Like we pointed out earlier, the portal. If you go through that, it will just send you straight to where you're meant to be. But if you, for some reason, miss it, then this door, which we previously showed was closed, is now open.
Yeah, so
that's where the portal was. And now this door's open. This is the alternate catch-up route. But it was pretty strange. They did put something, probably one of the coolest sites in the entire strike, in this alternate catch-up route, which is another fossilized, frozen memory of Ahamkara.
And this is what I think is probably the most interesting bit of commentary from this too. It's the fact that it appears here, right? This is potentially a memory of the Witness, potentially the memory of a dissenter, but it's also worth remembering that the precursor civilization was the first civilization to ever be blessed by the Traveler. So it raises that question of why is this basically adjacent to the precursor town, right? And also merged in with a bunch of pyramidal architecture. It raises a valid question which is simply this idea of, was it the case that the Ahamkara are so ancient that they may even have been around at the time of the precursors? Really not clear. Very much not clear whether that's the case or not. It's something which I think is going to be discussed by people in lore circles for a while to come. But the fact that you have these specimens frozen in time, and then, you know, you basically go down the stairs and into the next room, and you will find the precursor town. It's a little telling, and I feel like there's a little bit of an implication there, but it's not enough to confirm anything, right? Occasionally Bungie gives hints and winks and nods. Sometimes Bungie will go ahead and do environmental storytelling without meaning to. Sometimes it's just a very loose and open interpretation, which is entirely what I could be doing and giving you all there. But I think it's just interesting to note, because again, why is it so close? And why is there a full statue there? You know what I mean? If they were also living alongside the precursors somehow, would that have influenced a bunch of different things? Would they have been the same kind of wish dragons that we knew then? Because you can imagine that if they did exist at the same time, a bunch of the precursors would have wished to find the final shape. So did that end up doing anything if that was a wish they made? Was it the case that wish dragons maybe hadn't evolved into beings that basically fed through the use of the anthem anathema? It's really not clear, but you know, I think it's worth remembering and just thinking about. It's just a really cool point of the strike, and I feel as though that massive glass case can't be there for other reasons. You know, there is no explanation as to why it's alongside all of this, as well as all the other Ahamkara stuff.
And even another small detail of just this being a town, this room that you first come into is obviously just kind of styled to be like a little dining room, as if this is where it kind of looks like this is, you know, an actual precursor's home, where you just sit around a dining table and have some food, and it kind of plays into the whole theme of this being an actual town. It kind of does feel like this is a real town with houses where people used to live, where this ancient civilization used to be.
All right.
Shall we press ahead?
Yes, let's. Also, my apologies for not being able to completely keep up with the chat. For everybody who has tuned in, by the way, thank you so much. It's already been fantastic. I'm so sorry. I'll see what I can do to trim out the technical difficulties when this live stream gets turned into a VOD. I should be able to do that through YouTube's own internal editor. Regardless, there will be, as I said at the beginning, there will be a full YouTube VOD talking about the same topic going up on the channel either tomorrow or the day after, so you can expect me to be talking about this stuff in tandem anyway. In the more formatted? Yeah, I guess that's right. In the more formatted way that I usually do. Wow. That's rude. Midway through shooting them and they got a prismatic shield. Yeah, it's on his butt. Something I missed, by the way, but I should have pointed out. It's either up there or it's on one of these little skiffs of rock. If you come out here fast enough, you can actually see the Tormentor, not the Tormentor, the Subjugator that we just fought, standing on top of there looking over. And I want to say they give us a bow and then teleport out to the boss room. Can't remember if that is the case, but yeah, it's a very neat little detail. And again, you know, if you run around this valley, you will find yet more remains of Ahamkara and bones sticking out, but that's nothing new. We are approaching Kataxia's lair at this point. If Kataxiia, as a dread, had any impact on the memories of all of this, that says something kind of grim. It's also not clear because the dread supposedly are made from both light and dark. So, yeah, I'm not totally sure what's going on with that. Either way, there's lots of bones here and it's getting a little bit ominous. Shall we go and kill a boss?
And here we have the ultimate Ahamkara skull.
Yeah.
And more guts in the walls. More movie themes, which we'll look at in a second.
Yeah.
Rend it apart.
Speaking of guts in the walls, you remember how previously it was just a little bit overtaken with all of that? Yeah, you go in there, in the process of the strike, we'll show you that in a second, and it fully flips the context. Also, for those of you who don't remember, with regards to Wish Dragons, quick explainer, they are basically exactly as it sounds, dragons, but they're also shapeshifters. So, I mean, there is lore about how an Ahamkara literally shapeshifts into a giant Vex Hydra. There's lore about how one shapeshifts into an old woman. There's lore about how one of the Ahamkara takes on the literal traditional figure of a dragon, because that's what someone wants to fight in the moment, namely Lord Saladin. So yeah, it's not at all surprising that in the memories of things, giant Ahamkara skulls can also exist. Like, this is very much par for the course as far as the size differentiation is considered. But yeah, let's go ahead and just beam on this boy and get out of the section that we're in here.
So we have 2 rooms on the right and left, which are once again... The first one I showed was based off of Indiana Jones and grabbing the relic, escaping. This one, I believe it should be this one. This one is actually based off of the Star Wars, I forget which one was it, episode 4, 5 or 6, one of the trash compactor scene.
That's 4, yeah.
4?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is another action, well, is that an action movie? Probably not. Sci-fi, I guess, but it's another movie-inspired little side puzzle where the walls are going to close in with the lava. Again, grab the relic. Should I grab it or?
Go for it, yeah. I'll follow. I'll get the next one.
Once again, walls closing in.
Yeah. You can, however, absolutely also see the juxtaposition, because this starts out as an Ahamkara type area and then moves into being much more pyramidal in that last area in the room. The right side is basically the opposite. It is full Ahamkara, and it's the point at which that space, instead of being a little bit uncanny, goes fully surreal. And the context of change is fully there the moment you jump in. So, yeah. Jump out, you're back in the area, surrounded by some weird-ish kind of broken up structure. Jump in. All of a sudden, yeah, you're back inside Riven's gullet. Alright. Let's just get out of here real quick. Nice and easy. Also, I'm so sorry I did miss that super chat. I'll go ahead and get to that in just 1 second. While we are back here. How strong are wish dragons? Do they have limits? Could their powers affect the traveler? Are there any lore limitations? First stream, very interesting so far. Thank you so much, Shadow, and thank you very much for the $10 tip. Yeah, here's the thing. Ahamkara have influenced some really powerful beings, and some crazy things have been done with wish magic. If an Ahamkara is powerful enough, theoretically, there's no limit, I think. And I say that because look at the curse on the Dreaming City. Look at the fact that when Savathun wished for it, it happened, and that curse is seemingly unbreakable. That has affected dozens of Awoken, if not hundreds. It's affected an entire region of the Awoken's territory. Ooh, no, don't want to be standing there.
Finally caught up to us.
And you then got to remember what Riven did with Oryx. When Oryx made a bargain, Riven twisted it. You know, that's literally a dragon twisting the power of a god. So, it's just to say, if you aren't clever enough when you deal with an Ahamkara, it's very much the case that you could be, the polite way, I think, might be to say screwed over, no matter who you are. You know, it's entirely possible that you just end up on the wrong end of the bargain and then bad things happen no matter what's going on. So yeah.
And we also have another boss, which has just entered.
And has just died. For
No,
context,
no,
that would have been Sardul, the expedition leader. And then we have Macht, who's back as well. Yeah, Sardul, wizard of some small importance, because basically Luzaku's replacement as best we can tell, if Luzaku was commanding the same expedition previously.
I chased it into the lava. That's not smart. Was not smart.
Yeah, happens to the best of us. Good night. Alright, I've got the last essence here. I'm just going to get some transcendence. There we go. Yes, Luzaku did start out as an acolyte, Orion. I believe the law says they were literally changed by the Traveler upon their entrance into the Pale Heart. I don't know if that's correct or not, but yeah, would need to figure that out. If that had been a kill, that would have felt so good. Oh well. Nice and easy. And there you have it. And that is liminality for you, everybody. Can I feed an Ahamkara crude oil? You can try. Don't know if that's a good idea.
Give yourself to darkness. Only there will you find the answers you seek. This is the first concrete, actionable lead we've had since we arrived.
What about Cade's vision? We should follow the path the Traveler has laid for us.
How are we supposed to do that, when all it gives us is more riddles? Devotion, bravery, sacrifice. What does that even mean?
I don't know, but the Traveler wants you alive.
No! You do! That's what you want, Ikora. You once told me that to do nothing is cowardice. And now, you'd rather lose everything than to risk making the wrong move. But you aren't even thinking about that. You're just afraid to lose me like we lost Cade.
Commander, you're out of line!
Stay out of this. You weren't there. You don't know what happened when you died on us.
You're right. I can't lose you, Zavala.
Someday you will. And you'll have to learn to live with that.
So, we'll talk about this a little bit because we'll get dumped into this same space when the strike ends. But again, liminality being the idea of a moment of transition from one stage of someone's life to another, or from one place, metaphorically speaking, to another. For Zavala, that journey is complete. He sits there and says, darkness, in darkness, you can find us. That's our first actionable lead. Completely discards the idea of the Traveler and what it's doing, including the Guardian Creed, those 4 words, you know, devotion, bravery, sacrifice, death.
Answers are finally within our reach. Give yourself to darkness.
Zavala, this is reckless. And that's coming from me. You're not just going to let him do this, are you?
No one lets me do anything. I am Vanguard Commander, and you will follow my orders.
And we're your friends. We can find another way. The Traveler...
The Traveler can't help us. It could never help us. I gave it everything I had. And it keeps taking.
You have us. You have Cade back. Your fire team.
That's not enough.
So again, very much that moment of change and transition, as stated. But you can also see that moment of faithlessness. In particular, I want to point something out too. Back in Forsaken, when Ikora was like, we need to storm the reef and whatnot, Zavala was the one saying, I don't want to bury any more of my friends in that cutscene. And for that, Ikora calls him a coward. In this moment, in Liminality, the script has literally been flipped. In this moment, Zavala says, you're just afraid of losing me. That's what you want, it's not what the Traveler wants. And also, you're sitting there and seeing the inverse, where Ikora has earlier in the campaign also said, I'm done burying my friends. And also then says, and follows that up with, yes, I'm afraid of losing you, Zavala. So it's very much this moment of complete reversal and complete change. Zavala has gone from the character he used to be, and now he is the character that's ready to take the next step in his journey. It's yeah, it's really quite awesome. Thank you for the super chat, Shadow. Wished the witness out of existence instead of wasting 10 years. Yeah, no, that's very much the Eagles go to Mount Doom type solve there. But you know, it's also, I think, a problem because when you sit there and do that, you kind of remove any potential for the narrative to build on its own. And also, if you could do that with the MacGuffin, why wouldn't the witness just wish for the final shape? Didn't think about that one, did you? Anyway, I think that's mostly it for the stream, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, should we deafen and wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. But first, real quick, everybody, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out Unknown Player. That's Unknown Player 03. I'll see about linking that down below in the description of the VOD so that you guys have it. Andrew and I do creator chat on a regular basis, and also he's just a really lovely guy. If you want to go ahead, yeah, if you want to go ahead and just basically check out anything to do with some really cool behind-the-scenes type stuff for Destiny and some really awesome secrets, that's the kind of content that Andrew absolutely thrives at making. So yeah, go ahead and check him out and go ahead and give him a cheeky subscribe and, you know, drop a like on his video.
Yeah, and likewise, anyone in my stream, if you want to know anything about the story, anything about what's going on, what these characters are doing, what's the kind of stuff we've talked about in this stream, then Bife is your guy. Again, I'll link him in the comment section. If for whatever reason you're not subscribed to Bife, then definitely go check him out. And we should be doing a new podcast episode soon. I think we've definitely got a lot to talk about, a lot to wrap up. This was just, you know, this is focused on the strike, but I think we should definitely do one soon where we go through the entirety of Final Shape, the season or episode, and just everything that happened, because there's a lot to talk about. So
Indeed. As per usual, if you have any thoughts of your own, leave them down below in the comments section. One last thing I think from both of us as well. This was a sponsored stream on behalf of Bungie, so thank you very much to Bungie for sponsoring the both of us in the creation of this content. And hopefully all of you enjoyed it. If you want more live stream stuff from me on my end and from Andrew, go ahead and stay tuned. Creator chat on Andrew's end, more live stream stuff of a similar nature, hopefully without the technical issues, coming at some point very soon on my end of things. So yeah, catch you all very soon. And yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and deafen here.
yes.
There we are. And to all of you guys who are watching, one thing I want to know from all of you super quickly before we go ahead and end this: would you like more lore live stream type things generally? I'm praying that I don't get cursed by sound issues and all sorts of updates and restarts next time we try and do this. I'm really hoping we don't do this, because I'm going to try and do this for Salvation's Edge next, and I'm going to try and bring along a bunch of friends. But yeah, assuming that this is your kind of style, I'll try and do more of them. I need to see what the logistics of doing this on a regular basis look like. But yeah, if we can do a live stream type deal on a more regular basis, I would love to go ahead and start doing that. Especially considering the fact that now I finally have stable fiber internet, so I can actually push out a stream to all of you without it being just trash. Just complete bitrate awful trash, you know? So yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching, and as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, has been quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Kataxiia ad Astra. I will see you Starside.